Hi everyone, and for anyone joining us on the interwebs, welcome to our first sticky notes of 2023. Definitely nearly said 2022 because the year has not changed for me yet. But for anyone who doesn't know, our sticky notes are quick 15 minutes every couple of weeks where one of our team will just share something interesting, something they enjoy, and generally related to product design or UX in some way, shape, or form. But I thought we'd kick off the year with something a little bit different. It is Friday the 13th, so it could be spooky, but it's not really that spooky. So for anyone who is watching online, so I just outlined to the team that I actually came up with this idea in 2018, but have never really shared my musings. So this one is a little bit different. If you've to previous sticky notes that you've listened to, there are no slides. It's not directly related to product design, and a bit more of a rambling Katie's brain thought piece. So for those of you who don't know, I did my undergrad and master's dissertation on conspiracy theories and how you can change people's attitudes to people and things based on conspiracy theory information. But what then kind of came to me as I started working at the user story is conspiracy theories are kind of designed in the same way that we design products, but with a few differences, which I'll go into. But before I do get started, I have to preface this with the same thing that I actually had to debrief people with in my research, is in nothing that I say today am I saying that conspiracy theories are bad or good, or you should feel like good or bad connotations about engaging with conspiracy theory information. We all do it. And honestly, some in the past have turned out to be true, so can't really change that. But yeah, so conspiracy theories themselves have run rampant like throughout history, right? So you have rumors of the Roman Empire burning down their own cities. You have the planned world domination of the Illuminati, 9/11 attacks, chemtrails, the 2016 election, Russian spies, the Titanic. Was it the Titanic that sank? Anyone heard of that one?
Yeah.
I like that one. But there's pretty much a conspiracy theory for anything and everything if you go looking for it. But what is it about conspiracy theory information that is like really gripping and quite fascinating, even if you're sat there going, oh, you got a tinfoil hat on in your mum's basement type thing, which is not what they really are. But us as we are logical and rational, and we're the greatest, and we've evolved so very far that we couldn't possibly just take in someone's grandiose kind of claims of conspiracy and not interrogate it and look at actually what is happening. But the actual reality is, and this is what some of my research was about, is everyone is a conspiracy theorist, and well, or at least you have the potential to be. So a conspiracy theory itself is defined as an unverified and possibly implausible allegation of conspiracy. And it typically claims that some significant event is the result of a sinister plot carried out by some powerful person or group of people. But it's important to establish just in this that there's a difference between believing a conspiracy theory and endorsing a conspiracy theory. Anyone can be made to endorse a conspiracy theory. You probably have done in your life. Not everyone can be made to believe a conspiracy theory. And yeah, who doesn't like a classic kind of whodunit scenario? So I started to think about, okay, so how do conspiracy theories come to be a thing that's quite pervasive in kind of public consciousness, social media, and how do you even tell if something's a conspiracy theory? Because it's not actually always that easy. So I came to the conclusion, maybe prematurely, that they actually fit quite well but in the UX of product design process. So if we were to follow our classic double diamond, a conspiracy theory kind of starts their life rooted in a real life event, like we do when we go and speak to people doing real life things to discover things about them. And someone is then going to go out to this event and look for information that is available, and they'll put it together and promptly start ripping it to shreds. May sound familiar to some of you working here. And with that process that people are going through in this context, if you're adding in then a history of political mistrust, especially in the US, it's kind of what their public discourse is built on in some way, and you start having the perfect like UX conspiracy. It's very easy for me to go and find information, and then I need to find myself some answers. So once I've started to look and gather all of this information, I then need to define what my conspiracy theory is. So as we all know, we like to fill gaps as humans. We like stories, and that is kind of our default thing to try and do. So if we were looking at 9/11, I might look at everything that happened there and be like, okay, so why did the plane crash? What else happened at the same time? Who else was involved? Where did they come from? Why wasn't it stopped? It's a bit weird that the US Air Force flew in the wrong direction. Also a bit weird that the guy who owned the towers got an insurance policy the week before that covered terrorism. And you start to uncover these unanswered questions in the information you have available to you, and you start to narrow yourself down to what you think your conspiracy theory is. So that's it's where people then design your conspiracy theory. So we fill in those gaps for the questions that we have left. And if we have a huge event that's changed the course of history, it is really hard for as people to just accept that it happened. It wasn't engineered. It wasn't a thing that we couldn't control. It wasn't something that we didn't see coming. And this is where our brains themselves really aid the actual kind of design of a conspiracy theory, because a lot of how they're formed, and there's lots of research about this. There are a lot of fantastic researchers who go and learn about this. So this is just from the information that I've been exposed to. There will be lots of other stuff out there, but people typically go out and try to find a proportional explanation for the consequences of an event. So to just say this thing where all of these people died, or it's changed the course of history and this has happened, to just go, well, like that's just kind of how it is and we didn't see it coming. People are like, no. There has to be a bigger cause for this than that. And this forms like parts of different biases and things that are going on. But in the gist of it, it's kind of a like for like principle, and something significant must have caused a significant event. And they like to kind of explain these significant events because it simplifies them in a way. But we are driven to explain things and to find solutions in the same way as we would if we were going through our design process and we're looking at solutions for those things. And we need, as people, some more so than others, to have what is called a need for cognitive closure, effectively. So some people are okay with messy pieces of information and not having a finite start and end point. Some people really struggle to not have that kind of closure on a thought process. But once this like theory is designed, really, they serve a purpose to people. They solve a problem for people because I can have closure because I now believe this thing. I make my life easier because I no longer have to go finding all this information about it and living in this state of uncertainty. And they are compelling as hell. I spent 2.5 years down YouTube rabbit holes, like just madness, absolute madness. I think one of my favorite ones was someone said that MIT effectively like photoshopped live the plane crashing into the Twin Towers because you can see it flicker.
You can see the pixels.
Yeah. But and like it's fine if you don't want to admit it, but it's likely at some point in your life you will have encountered some kind of conspiracy theory and gone, that could be true. Right, I see that. And yeah, that is fine. So the problem that we have within the process, our process and conspiracy theories, is the validation of them. Because we like to say that we validate things, we come up with a solution, we take it out to the world and we see if it's correct. The great thing about conspiracy theory is you can't validate it. But that also means you can't invalidate it, because whatever comes out of it but there's this fact, like, well, whoever organized that event, that's the fact that they want you to see, so you're actually just sheeple. But it also actually plays into a bit of what we find when we're trying to fight biases in our research and validation of products as well, because we are still susceptible to the same thing where we've put a lot of work into something and we don't want someone to turn around and tell us that we're wrong. We all have a little bit of ego attached to what we're doing, and we want things to work, and that stands in the way of getting to a better solution at times. But yeah, if anybody tells you that you're wrong about a conspiracy theory, you can usually just blame it on the government or like big pharma, and it's fine. But this comes down to how a belief system is created about a conspiracy theory, in the same way that we have belief systems about multiple things in life, and people won't agree. There are different ways to think about it, but quite often a conspiracy theory is rooted in a belief about something similar, but like you're not going to change that belief with a fact, in the same way that I am never going to change. If you believe that chicken is the greatest food in the world, me coming along with a fact about burger, like beef, is not going to change your mind. And yeah, so people who operate kind of from that worldview, you actually see a lot higher levels of just general distrust, especially political distrust, and any official account given by people in power. And yeah, it doesn't actually matter if the two conspiracy theories you believe in are mutually incompatible with each other. You still believe in them. So that's a fun one. Because so there was a study that showed that someone who said that they totally believed that Princess Diana was assassinated by the royal family equally believed that her medical care was sabotaged. So they're both conspiracy theories, but both of them can't have happened. So yeah, it can happen to anyone, even if you think it doesn't apply to me. My whole study was about presenting people with some information and watching their attitudes towards other groups of people become more negative just based on some basic exposure to a conspiracy theory. But yeah, it can happen to you. Try and stay away from them. They do serve a purpose. They are designed very well, but they can be harmful. So try and be mindful and switch yourself out and think about them a bit more deeply, because as much as at work we have the double diamond helping us lose our sanity at times, trying to figure out what we're doing, happens with other pieces of information and types of product as well. So yeah, this is why I just really like conspiracy theories, because they're born from this kind of just what can start as a very small idea or from a very small piece of information, and they just grow and collect things and absorb things and bring themselves, not themselves, it's not a person, but people bring them to the forefront of things that we talk about and things that we do. And they transform themselves into something really powerful, and this might be weird, but beautiful in terms of what they can actually achieve, even if it can be in a negative way. But yeah, that's just what makes them great, and the parallels that I saw between our process and how people design conspiracy theories. So thanks. Any questions?
I've got a really important question.
Okay.
Why are the two Diana conspiracy theories incompatible?
I don't want to answer that question. No, I think in the basis of, if the medical care that was provided to her was by the royal family and they wanted her dead, if they tried to assassinate her, it's something around that. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I know this isn't important, but like, isn't it just part of the whole wider conspiracy that they didn't finish the job off in the tunnel, so they would have made sure her care was shit, so they finished the job off eventually?
Yeah, but someone's not making a choice in two separate things that have happened. So either you could have someone who doesn't believe that she was assassinated, but they then saw an opportunity and went, let's screw up with the medical care. But to believe both at the same time, they're two separate theories, not one theory?
That's one hell of a conspiracy, that.
Well, that's what I mean, but it feeds into each other. Surely, if that's your worldview that the royal family would have her assassinated, why wouldn't they go to the doctors and be like, just...
But I think your point... I've got the mic, I'll shout. But I think your point about having, it building and gaining momentum, coming from basically nothing, is a really good one, because that's a really good example where, the conspiracy came from, people kind of knew that the royal family didn't really like Diana because of all the, the history they had. And then she went into a tunnel and died in a car accident. But there was a flash. And the flash, of course, is the photographers on the back of bikes or whatever. But that spirals into, maybe it was an EMP, and that's taken out and you can see how it then goes, and then she was in an ambulance. But isn't it weird that they stopped for half an hour on the way to the hospital? Yeah, they were trying to restart her heart, weren't they? But you can see how they want to make connections.
It's like the gateway drug, isn't it? If you're willing to believe one thing, then why wouldn't you be willing to believe the next thing?
Yeah.
It just spirals.
But my quick question was going to be, my quick question was going to be, do you know how we can help people who are trapped in this cycle of believing a conspiracy, like something like 9/11, where it's obviously completely ludicrous, but they will not.
Is it?
Don't do that. But because I don't know if you've seen it, but the Netflix documentary on Flat Earth is one of the finest pieces of documentary filmmaking you could ever watch. It is fantastic. And literally at the end, they conduct an experiment which proves that the theory is wrong, and yet they still believe it.
Because then the science is wrong, because the people who have created the science have done this.
So how do you break that in someone that is so adamant to believe a conspiracy theory? How do you get them out of that?
So I don't have a finite answer to that. In short, it's very, very difficult, because it is rooted in a belief system. Belief systems are incredibly hard to change, and they cascade outwards through behavior and all, just your whole life and how you do it. So to change it would take a lot of time, and I'm sure there are more advanced methods kind of to do that, in the same way that you would. It's like saying, how do I make a racist not racist?
Yeah.
If it's a really deep rooted belief that someone has, there's a lot of unpicking that needs to happen, and there's not really one clear route to picking away at those worldviews.
Which of the conspiracy theories do you find most fascinating?
So I really like the 9/11 conspiracy theory and the Titanic, because that is just If you don't know what it is, it's basically the Titanic wasn't the Titanic, and it was all an insurance ploy, and they knew that there were problems with the boat, and it was actually the sister boat, and they ripped out the whole interior of the sister boat, put in the interior of the Titanic, and then set it on its way. For those who can't see Sam's face, he is unimpressed.
So much effort for the reward. That's why I
Yeah.
don't believe things half the
Yeah, the labour of that.
Yeah, I think it's particularly is in that one because it's also what, like 19, when was it, like 1920s or something? 1912. There we go. No, it's probably not that much money back in the day either for an insurance policy. But yeah, I just think they're quite interesting. But
Thank you, Katie.
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.